If you are thinking about buying a property on Las Colinas Golf in 2026, this video is for you. The market here has changed a lot. In fact, the first 5 months of this year have probably been one of the busiest periods Las Colinas has ever seen. We have seen a huge number of properties sold, both new build and resale, and the buyer profile is changing as well. Traditionally, we've seen a lot of buyers from the UK, Belgium, the Netherlands, Scandinavia and other Northern European countries. But right now, we are seeing very strong interest from new markets too. One of the biggest buyer groups at the moment is Poland, which is really interesting and shows just how international Las Colinas has become. So in this video, I want to give you a simple 2026 buyer's guide. We will cover what the market is doing, how much you should budget for purchase costs, the difference between buying a resale property and a new build, how the buying process works, and why it is so important to speak to us early if you want the very best opportunities. And if you already own a property on Las Colinas and you are thinking of selling, please do contact us. The Las Colinas market is very active. A lot of properties have sold in the first 5 months of the year, not just one type of property either. We have seen strong sales across apartments, penthouses, villas, new builds and resales. The simple reality is this: demand is strong, but supply is limited. That means buyers need to be prepared. The best properties do not always sit around for months. If something is priced correctly, in a good position, with the right views, orientation and layout, it can move quickly. And this is where a lot of buyers make a mistake. They wait until everything is publicly listed online. They wait until it appears on YouTube. They wait until everyone else has seen it. But on Las Colinas, some of the best opportunities are often known about before they are fully marketed. At Love Colinas, there are times when we have access to properties that are not actively advertised on our website or on YouTube. Sometimes owners speak to us quietly before they fully commit to selling. Sometimes we know about new releases before they are officially promoted. And sometimes the best positioned properties are already being discussed with serious buyers before the wider market even knows they exist. So if you want to buy here, the best advice I can give you is do not just watch from the sidelines. Speak to us. Tell us exactly what you want, what your budget is, and what kind of property would make you move. Because if we know what you are looking for, we can let you know when the right opportunity appears. A very good example of this is Azahar. When those apartments became available, we had early access. We understood the community, the positions, the views, the orientations, and which units were likely to be the strongest. And we did not just tell clients they were good, we actually bought one ourselves because in our opinion it was the best one in the community. That is the difference between just looking at a price list and really understanding Las Colinas. On paper, 2 apartments can look similar, same bedrooms, similar meters, similar price. But in reality, one might have a much better view, better sun, better privacy, better access, or a position that will always make it more desirable in the future. That is where local knowledge matters. Right now, we also have access to some incredible upcoming opportunities. I cannot go into all the details in this video, but what I can say is this: if you want to be first in the queue for prime location property on Las Colinas, you need to speak to us early. There are more releases coming, and some of them are going to be genuinely special. We're talking about properties with breathtaking views, and even some ground floor options with views that are better than many penthouses elsewhere. So if you're interested in new build property, do not wait until everything is public. Contact us, tell us what you're looking for, and we can keep you informed properly. Now let's talk about purchase costs, because this is one of the most common questions buyers ask. For resale properties in the Valencian community, the transfer tax is changing from 1st June 2026. For most resale purchases, the ITP transfer tax is reducing from 10% to 9%. That is good news for buyers because on a €500,000 property, that is a saving of around €5,000. However, you should still budget properly. For a resale property on Las Colinas, a sensible total budget for purchase costs is usually around 11% to 12% of the purchase price. That should cover the transfer tax, notary, land registry, legal fees, and other standard costs. For a new build, the costs are slightly different because instead of transfer tax, you normally pay IVA, which is 10%, plus stamp duty and the other purchase costs. So for a new build, I would normally suggest budgeting around 12% to 13% in total. As always, your lawyer will confirm the exact figures for your own purchase, but as a simple guide, for resale, budget around 11% to 12%, for new build, budget around 12% to 13%. That way, you are not caught out later. Now let's explain the buying process for a resale property. Once you find a property you want to buy and your offer is accepted, the first step is normally to sign a reservation agreement and pay a deposit. On Las Colinas, this is often €10,000. That deposit removes the property from the market while your lawyer carries out the checks and prepares the private purchase contract. Within around 30 days, you would normally pay the balance of the 10% deposit and sign the private purchase contract. This contract is usually prepared or reviewed by your lawyer, and it sets out the agreed terms, the completion date, and the obligations of both buyer and seller. A very good idea, especially if you're not living in Spain, is to give your lawyer power of attorney. That means they can apply for your NIE number, deal with paperwork, sign documents on your behalf where needed, and generally make the process much easier. After the private purchase contract is signed, completion can happen quite quickly, depending on the situation. Sometimes it can be around 4 weeks, sometimes it is 8 to 12 weeks, and sometimes buyer and seller agree a later completion date if that suits both parties. But the basic process is simple. You agree the purchase, you pay the reservation deposit, your lawyer checks everything, you sign the private purchase contract and pay the balance of the 10% deposit. Then you complete at the notary and become the legal owner. The new build process is slightly different. With a new build property, the reservation deposit is normally lower, being €6,000. That payment reserves the property and removes it from availability. After that, Las Colinas will carry out their KYC process. This is the compliance anti-money laundering process where they check the buyer's identity and source of funds. Once that is completed, the next stage is the main deposit payment. This is 30% of the purchase price. The balance is then paid on completion. Another reason why it is important to get proper advice, you need to understand not just the price, but the payment schedule, the build timeline, the position, the views, the orientation, the specification, and the long-term resale appeal. Why use Love Colinas? We live, work, and love Colinas. We are not trying to sell every property across the Costa Blanca. We focus on this resort. And because of that, we know the communities, the developers, the resale market, the history of prices, the best positions, and the things buyers need to think about before making a decision. We have access to all types of property for sale on Las Colinas, both new build and resale, and our job is not just to open the door and show you around. We help you from day one all the way through to completion and beyond. We can introduce you to good independent lawyers. We can explain the buying process clearly. We can help you understand which properties offer the best value. We can give you honest advice on location, views, orientation, and resale potential. And if you are buying from abroad, we can also help with the small things that make a big difference. For example, we often send video updates to clients while they are waiting to complete, especially on new build or off-plan properties. So even if you are not here in Spain, you can still see how things are progressing. We can also help with furnishing, local contacts, property management introductions, and all the practical things that come after buying a home. Because buying a property abroad is exciting, but it can also feel overwhelming. Our job is to make that process simple, clear, and enjoyable. The message is very simple. If you own a property on Las Colinas and you are thinking of selling, please get in touch. Right now, there is strong demand. We have serious buyers looking for apartments, penthouses, and villas, and in some cases, we may already have someone waiting for exactly the type of property you own. You do not necessarily need to fully launch your property publicly straight away. Sometimes we can have a quiet conversation first and give you honest advice on value, demand, and the best way to approach the market. But the demand is there, and we really do need more resale properties. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and see you next week.